But there's actually a really cool blessing from reading this when I was actually looking at it from a side note. Because it goes actually to the very core of our church as Goshen, okay? Not only our church, but actually our marriages can be blessed from this. It actually is a real treasure to read this when we see this. Because all you know, the church will not make it, okay? If we come along and we have all these hurdles in Goshen, and all I'm trying to do or someone else is trying to do is push the person over that's trying to jump over the hurdle. Oh, there's a hurdle, someone's going to jump, get out of the way. Like constantly fighting the person instead of fighting the problem. And that's what Jesus is pointing out here with this kingdom divided. It will not make it, and Goshen will not make it if we have a problem in our church and we just butt heads and fight all the time. Instead of coming alongside each other and saying, look, here's the problem. We are not attacking each other. We are attacking the problem, and how can we fight that problem together? Do you guys understand that? And that's what Jesus is pointing out here. The same thing is with our marriages. And if my wife was in here, she'd go, she'd point it out. Because every time, it's usually this way, every time my wife lovingly corrects me and points out something in my life, if I walk away with a deep breath and then I come back and I go, you know what your problem is? Does that ever fix the problem? No. She was actually trying to help me point something out, and instead I turned the problem against her and said, you're the problem. And then we'll just fight. And it seems like there's no resolution. In our marriages, we're supposed to come alongside each other because the problem, they come. For those that have been married for a long time, you know this. These issues come, and we have to deal with them. But you don't deal with them trying to put it on the other person. Even if maybe it's something that they struggle with, you have to assist them to see the problem at hand instead of just trying to fight them. Because they'll never hear it. I tell you, I'm that person. When my wife comes at me and I just get, defensive, we get nowhere in our conversations. It's not until I try and see from her side and look at the problem at hand. That's what Jesus is highlighting here, okay? And it's for all of us to understand that there's no way a house can be divided, constantly at war with each other, instead of coming alongside each other and taking the war to the issue. Okay? And it'll never make it if you pull the binder out. For some of you cooks, you know what I'm talking about? The binder, the thing that holds things together. Let me emphasize on that. Ecclesiastes 4:12 says, and though a man might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him, but a threefold cord is not quickly broken. Okay? So in my home with my wife, when we have a problem and it gets heated into this very aggressive conversation, the only binder that holds us together is Jesus. There are two of us, and if all we do is fight, we're bound to snap. But if some of my coworkers were in here and they heard this teaching, I've quoted this verse to them actually several times, how the Bible actually talks about rigging and talks about working on towers. They're like, what? The Bible talks about that? It talks about the strength of a three-corded rope. Matt works in Ace Hardware. How many people go to the threefold or the twofold? The three is stronger. Okay? But that third person in our marriages, in our church, is Jesus. It's not adding another fallible human being because it's just adding more problems. In our marriage, mine and my wife, we have Jesus, and our relationship is knit and sealed with Him as our binder. So when we tackle an obstacle, We work together with Jesus and tackle the problem at hand, and that's how we become successful through the argument. Because aside from that, if you take away Jesus, there's no resolution. It actually blows my mind that people in the world that don't know Jesus actually end up 60, 70 years married. It's rare, but it happens. I don't understand it. Because in my marriage with Jesus, I'm like, man, if I took Jesus out, we'd be gone. It wouldn't have made it. So our relationship is knit through that threefold with Christ. Because look at verse 27 right here. It says, but no one can enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man. Then indeed he may plunder his house. So if you take Jesus out of the equation, you take that binder out, what's going to happen? It's going to crumble. It's going to fall apart. Because that strong man sitting in there holding it together. When I picture this parable, I picture like Secret Service protecting the president, right? You remove the Secret Service, it's full reign on the president, right? You have bodyguards, you have protection. And in this house Jesus is talking about, there is this strong man that you're never going to defeat. You can't beat him. You have to remove him. You got to distract him. Maybe tell him there's some donuts over here, and he's going to be like, oh, I'm a strong man. I love donuts. And he comes over here. Now you can tackle his house. Okay? And that goes for my marriage, and that goes for Goshen. Okay? We will never be able to work together if someone comes in and takes Jesus out of our equation. The moment someone comes in here and says, look, I really feel this way, I like this way of teaching, I like to do things this way, and it becomes philosophical or subjective, this church will crumble. It will fall apart. Because Jesus is the cornerstone, the chief foundation of Goshen. Amen? So when you remove him out, I promise you this church will crumble. And we cannot do that as a church, because a house divided against itself will not make it. Do you guys understand that? So it's not built around, this is a play on words, a straw man, but a strong man. And who is that strong man? Jesus. It's okay to remind yourself all the time, because sometimes we forget that and we think, man, we're doing really good at Goshen. Yeah, we just, we come here and we put everything together, and man, people are just always doing things. But we as a church collectively need to constantly be reminded that we are built on Jesus. He is our binder. We cling to him and nothing else, because we don't want what God is doing here to fall apart.